Former Everton and Manchester City boss Howard Kendall has passed away. It is with great sadness that Everton Football Club has learned of the passing of Howard Kendall, the most successful manager in the history of the club and one of the greatest players to pull on the Everton jersey.
Now, earlier today, everybody associated with Everton was devastated to learn of the passing of one of the finest players ever to pull on the Everton jersey and the greatest manager in the history of our club. A league title winner as a player and a double league title winner as a manager. Howard Kendall was a giant of Everton Football Club. He has been taken from us at the age of 69.
Over the weekend, the sad news that former Everton manager and player Howard Kendall passed away at the age of 69. Known as Everton's most successful manager, winning the League Cup twice, the FA Cup and the Cup Winners' Cup, he will always be remembered by all Evertonians. Former players Graeme Sharp, Peter Reid and Mark Lawrenson have all paid tribute to Howard Kendall.
Howard was a fun guy, you know, a character, but as a manager, very, very good. I think his record speaks for itself. You know, the most successful time in Everton's history was when Howard was at the helm. Great manager to play for. He was just a great guy. You know, he believed in team spirit and the lads enjoyed themselves, but he also made sure the lads worked extremely hard, and I think all the players had the utmost respect for him. And even in his second and third spells back, you know, okay, it didn't go as well as the first time, but I think everybody who played under him wouldn't have a bad word to say for him. Just spoke to Duncan before, who obviously was close to him as well. So sadly for Howard passing, he'll forever be in Evertonians' thoughts.
You know, when I think of Howard, coming down the steps at Old Wembley, which I thought they were great, them steps, and Kevin Graff was in front, and I just remember this smile, and it lit up Wembley Stadium. It was a happy occasion anyhow, but the hardest trophy to win is that first one, and his face showed it that day. It was just, money can't buy it. It was beautiful.
He was part of the midfield trio of Ball, Harvey and Kendall that won the league under the manager Harry Catrick. He was a Preston player as well. He was my idol when he was at Preston. But that team of the mid-80s, I mean, they were an outstanding team, which was Howard's team. I think he had 3 spells in the end at Everton. A real football man. But the unfortunate thing about that team was, obviously, because of Heysel, they couldn't go and play in the European Cup, and they had a side probably good enough to go and win it. So it's a shock, because living on Merseyside, I didn't even realise that he'd been poorly. So it's come as a massive shock to everybody.
Many former players took to social media to pay their tributes to Howard Kendall. Jamie Carragher said, "R.I.P. Howard Kendall, the greatest EFC manager there's been. He gave me some of my best football memories, especially in the 84-85 season." Gary Lineker said, "Saddened to hear that Howard Kendall has passed away. Brilliantly managed the best club side I ever played for at Everton. Great bloke, R.I.P." Reporter Vinnie O'Connor reflects on Howard Kendall's career.
The word legend is often used too much in many respects, but in terms of Everton, Howard Kendall was certainly a legend. I think the statement kind of summed it up when you think he was part of the holy trinity, as it was, of Kendall, Harvey and Ball in Everton midfield that went on to win the league title in the 1970s, and then to come back to the club as manager. And he was so close to getting the sack in the dark days for Everton in 1983, and people often point to the Kevin Brock back pass in the League Cup at Oxford that ensured that Everton was still able to stay in the competition. Adrian Heath nipping onto that back pass, and from then on Everton got to a League Cup final that year where they got beaten on the replay by Liverpool, but won the FA Cup 2-0 against Watford, and then the following season, probably the best season that Everton have had in many respects, because they went on to win the league title, a team with the likes of Neville Southall, Graeme Sharp, Trevor Stephen, Kevin Sheedy, Peter Reid, Paul Bracewell, Kevin Ratcliffe, of course, their most successful ever captain as well. They got to the FA Cup final that season where they were beaten by Manchester United, albeit that they'd beaten Manchester United in the league 5-0. And of course that special night in Rotterdam prior to the FA Cup final where they beat Rapid Vienna. It is the stuff of legend, really. The following season they went to close to a double, only to be pipped in the league and the FA Cup by Liverpool, and then 1986-87 going on to win that second league title as well. 2 further spells followed. Of course, he wasn't able to repeat that success, and we all remember, of course, the last day really of his final spell in charge, where Everton barely managed to stay in the Premier League, drawing at home to Coventry City. Gareth Fowley that day with the with the Everton goal. But he's such a beloved figure of Everton Football Club, and the news will be greeted with sadness because he was so popular among the fans. You can go to Everton functions now, sometimes in the ground as well. You can still hear Evertonians chanting Howard Kendall's Blue and White Army, and I think that pretty much sums up the affection that they have. And Everton seemed to be where his heart was. He said when it came to coming back that it was like a marriage when it came to Everton, and I think that sums up the affection he had for the club, but also the way that the club looked at him as well.
Howard Kendall loved Everton Football Club and did not want nothing less than to see the club succeed. In an interview before his passing, he described how much Everton Football Club was in his heart.
Well, it's down to the fans really, but I think that what made it special to me is being successful here as a player and as a manager, and the fans were absolutely marvellous during both of those times.
Current Everton manager Roberto Martinez and player Tony Hibbert described the passing of Howard Kendall and what he meant to the club.
As you can imagine, it was a real shock. Very sad news to get those news in the manner that they arrived, so unexpectedly. And then I think since then we had time to reflect, and obviously is a legacy that will be with us for the rest of our history. And Howard Kendall's role as a footballer was iconic, but as a manager is a reference, and it will always be an inspiration. And our thoughts straight away with his family and the sad feelings that we all shared were very clear to Phil Goodison during the match. But from now on, we want to use Howard's influence and his career as the real inspiration for the future, and that's what we want to take from that sad day.
Yeah, massive. Obviously being around the club and obviously growing when I was a young lad, when he was in the 80s and stuff like that, and coming through and seeing the pictures and seeing people who have played underneath him, the stories they've told us, and just the whole thing when he was a player is massive for a young lad growing up, and seeing him develop the team as he did in the 80s and winning all the trophies was fantastic as a young kid. Obviously the older players, the like of Fergie and Snods, who played underneath him, who are still here, I haven't got a bad word to say about him, to be honest. He was a genuinely nice fella. Honestly, he was down to earth and a great character, and obviously the stories what the old players tell me about, and the way he was as a man manager, especially, like, he was gifted. He was unbelievable, and just a general all-round nice man.
The news of Howard Kendall's passing came hours before Everton's game against Manchester United. Here is what some fans had to say about the sad news.
You know, he's the only manager that's really delivered real success for Everton Football Club. He's very, very highly regarded. You know, he's delivered European trophies. He's delivered English championships. You know, he's delivered FA Cups. So, you know, he's fairly special, you know, especially in Evertonian size.
Howard Kendall will always be remembered as not just an Everton legend, but as a football legend also, and will be truly missed by all Evertonians.
Now, earlier today, everybody associated with Everton was devastated to learn of the passing of one of the finest players ever to pull on the Everton jersey, and the greatest manager in the history of our club. A league title winner as a player and a double league title winner as a manager. Howard Kendall was a giant of Everton Football Club. He has been taken from us at the age of 69. There will now be a minute's applause in memory of Howard. It will begin and end on the referee's whistle.